racism. 2 sections within the sunroom. There are some things. Oh, okay, here we go. What came first? Hold on, do you know, who knows what capitalism is? I mean, hands up, hands up. Okay, hands down. I got 3. 3. Did you have hands up? I got 3 for who knows what capitalism is. Who knows what racism is? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6. I got 6 who know racism right now. 3 who know capitalism. 6. Yeah, 6 who know racism. What's racism?
When other people are treated differently than other people because of their race.
People can be the same if they look different.
It's institutionalized bias against someone because of their skin color.
Systemic bias against skin color. Racism. Now, what's capitalism? For the 3, what's capitalism? I'm putting you on the spot. What's capitalism? Let's do it again.
An economic system that's led by people instead of by the government.
Ooh, I like that answer.
Capitalism is when like one person is like, hey, we can make money off of this. So they go and they do a bunch of stuff. And sometimes it's not very good stuff to make money.
Come on now.
Capitalism is, like you said, it's a system in which how like money is traded and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Money traded. It's a system, an economic system. Slavery was capitalism. If you want anything I say as well, write it down. When I say slavery is capitalism, I think that's something you should write down. I didn't emphasize that at the beginning, but write that down.
One of the things that gets kind of confusing with racism is that you've got this idea of better than, or I don't like people who look like me. So when we talk about race, we're talking about skin color, right? But I think that where capitalism comes in and where we need to make sure that we're kind of focusing is that it's not just about, I don't like you because you don't look a certain type of way. I don't like you because you don't whatever, right? That's just, you're being judgmental or rude or discriminatory, right? Racism was being used as like a power tool. And anybody stop me if you feel like I need to, right? But it's a power tool. So capitalism, this idea of making money, was that the Europeans with white skin were using the visual of skin color as a way to divide people, and not just divide them, but control and power.
Yeah, like you said, like racism is definitely used as a justification for capitalism.
Another thing that I'd like to add is that they were also able to justify it by comparing Africans to animals, by saying that they look like monkeys, which helped them. Honestly, I don't even know who else knowingly, because all the imagery depicted them as being animals. The people who weren't actually working on the planet, even the people who were actually, might not even have thought of them as humans because they've been so, dehumanized by all propaganda and sayings that, they can't speak, they can't read. They're just like akin to animals, or monkeys specifically.
Right now, I'm really thinking about what the next steps can be. Like, what is our capacity to take you all's brilliant ideas and put it into action, to put it into something that benefits you. My heart is feeling so full right now. I am so inspired. I think our future is absolutely safe in y'all's hands. I don't worry about what's next. My heart is really full. And I'm walking away with a better sense of what we can accomplish next week, like what we could actually do.
I'm thinking that we all had really good ideas today, and I think that this is going really well, and I like that. I'm feeling very happy because I got to hear more perspectives, and I'm always trying to learn and expand my mind. And I think I'm going to be walking away with new experiences and new thoughts to go forward.
Thinking about how much I like just revisiting these sort of basic questions about like what is racism and what is healing, like just really sitting with like the sort of basics of it and getting to hear other people's perspectives. I'm feeling quite calm, like this has been a very calm space, and you all feel like a very calm group, which I enjoy. And I am walking away with a lot of curiosity about like what we can make together, I guess, but also all we make is some new friends. That's great too.
I'm just really thinking about what can come of this. Because things like this happen all over the place. And so I'm just trying to think like I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm feeling excited, apparently. And I'm feeling kind of like motivated. I'm also, I'll be honest, I'm feeling a little bit like impatient. I like the basics too, but sometimes I'm like, okay, get to the juicy stuff. So that's just me being honest, but not in a bad way. And I'm walking away with like some new tools. So honestly, with collaborating with some new people, that's been huge for me. And I've been learning a lot, like organizing for these things. So for me, I'll be walking away with inspiration and new tools for like working together with other adults as well.
I guess I'm thinking about a school I visited a while ago. It's kindergarten by my school, and to look at kind of who are the characters, what races are they in the books, and what images do they have on the walls, and that kind of thing. And the school was talking about how proud they are because they have like 5 stars on the diversity standard. But looking at the things, it's like they're looking at diversity from a very it's like if you have 10 books, one of them being about a black child is diverse, but really that idea, like especially for white children, it leads to the idea that their race is the norm, and it's really important for white children to be able to see like at least 50-50, if not like 1/4, So my heart is hurting because I know how that is, and moving forward, even though I don't want to like hurt their pride, I know I'm gonna have to write to them and tell them that I noticed this, and just that I hope that they can be thinking about how to do better in that way. So, yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe it's already been 2 hours. I'm feeling a bit disappointed that next week is the last week because I've been enjoying it. But I'm going to walk away feeling glad that I came here. I'm thinking, I wasn't thinking about none of this stuff at y'all age. I'm thinking, I totally walked in here, not underestimating you guys, but just not thinking that I was dealing with the minds that I'm dealing with. I'm feeling motivated and hopeful for the future.
And I'm gonna walk away with a whole new respect. And I can't even stress the respect that I have for you all in here. The way you all have opened my eyes, it made me think. And again, at your age, I wasn't thinking about any of this stuff. I had to find out what New Edition next concert was, and you probably know what New Edition is, so whatever. So, yeah, I'm gonna leave here very motivated. Thank you.
He just comes in and points at people. That was good. Yeah. You had the timing right, and he just turned around.
That's two.
Man, those were fun. Moving forward, if hopefully we can move forward as a group, and we've heard that you want to, do the small library and get in the radio and do some more writing and do some more, collective art and whatnot, right? And we want to go back to the drawing table as IMC and figure out how to make this happen and get you guys, we want to build. There's going to be programming, building, and, we want you guys back. And this idea of what we're doing here right now, especially with the values, is figuring out who you are, where you're coming from, so that when you start moving forward on your own personal healing journeys, but also giving to the community, you can stay true to yourself. Because you can have the biggest impact on community as long as you're being true to yourself, right? And so that's that connection, right? And so again, we've been saying these 3 weeks, this is the beginning of something. Hopefully the beginning of something exciting and big and feeling productive to you in your in your healing journey, but also in your way of connecting to community, right? And so moving forward with this, that's kind of what we're hoping to do. And so I just wanted to say that. It's exciting.
Okay, we're getting towards wrapping up, and I guess, when we sat down to get this project started, and Don was part of this conversation, and Drake was part of this conversation, and maybe Brandy was there, we said, we're going to get together IMC members and talk about healing racism. And the more people talked about what was needed in this moment, the more we, as a group, said, we really need to hear from young people about what racism, healing racism means. And we decided to start with that, with this series of workshops. But we're going to continue with 2 similar sort of circles with adults that do some video making about what adults are thinking about healing racism. But I think, as Don was saying, adults can get so stuck in their ways. We've been alive long enough to really sort of get into these routines. And so we wanted to sort of wrap up with what are some of the questions that you would ask of adults about healing racism? What do you think adults need to be doing? What do you think they need to be more honest about?
One of the questions, so I think one of the things that adults need to do to heal is to listen, and I feel like, I don't know how to translate that into a question, but I feel like a lot of adults, they think that just like listening on the surface level, like just listening to somebody talk and not doing anything with that, like that's the same thing. But I don't think it is. I think that you need to listen to somebody and then you need to process that for yourself and find out what that means to you, and then do something about that. So
I definitely agree with that. Just listening on the surface level's not enough. It's very frustrating to like tell someone like, please, can you just like listen? They're like, yeah, I could listen, and then they listen, but it's just in one ear or the other, you know? Like they listen, they hear what you're saying, but they don't internalize it.
I think maybe a question from that would be, when you, after you listen to someone, do you feel emotionally impacted?
Yeah,
Maybe that could like make them start.
I feel like a lot of the adults, like a lot of the adults are white and stuff like that, and I feel like there's a problem with, like, there's a quote that I love. It's like, it's not enough to be non-racist. You have to be anti-racist. And I feel like a lot of white people are like, oh, I'm not racist and stuff like that, but then they continue to.
I'm not racist. I have black friends.
Yeah, like that. Like they don't think they're racist, but then if they have family members, like extended family that are racist, they don't call them out or correct them and stuff like that. And I feel like they can't be complicit in that. So I feel like the question could be, how do you actively protest against racism?
I feel that way with my mom. She isn't, I don't think, racist, but her family is from a small town in southern Illinois. And with that comes some bundled racism. And they aren't like actively like, you know, just like shouting the N-word at us, but you know, they're not. But whenever we like go back to the car and like talk to our mom about it, she's like, don't say that about them. It's just because they come from a small town and they don't know any better, but you can't really just excuse it.
Yeah. I feel like you have to know better. If you're an adult, you have to take responsibility, and you have to. Nobody's gonna do that for you. Like, you're an adult, you have to. You can seek help, obviously. People are willing to help you, but you have to take the initiative to do it first.
I also feel like you cannot be like white people cannot be racist. They don't have to be racist, but I feel like they just have that mindset because they're white. I just feel like any white person, they don't have to act racist, but I feel like whatever they say, some things that they say are racist and they just don't know it because they just have that mindset.
Yeah, because we live in America.
Yeah.
It's just the way that things are. That doesn't make you racist. What makes you racist is continuing to live with that mindset.
Yeah. They shouldn't support that mindset, but they should be like I'm white, I got the mindset, I don't need to be like this, but white people can be like that and not know it, and I feel like some people just don't correct that, and I feel like people need to start correcting when they say stuff that is not respectful.
So how can you actively fight against racism?
Like as I said, like you can start.
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Speak. You can't be complacent.
Yeah. So the questions, like, Amy, are you ready?
I think for me,
How do you actively protest against racism?
Yeah.
Yeah, another question like that would be maybe if somebody says something racist in your family, how can you respond?
Yeah.
So that's
I feel like if you have the right to be in family, you should really be like, because it's not a stranger, so you should.
Yeah.
So if you're not, when you correct a stranger, you can be a little rude but a little not, like you can stand for your right. But with your family, especially with the elderly, you gotta like be a little bit more respectful and be like, oh yeah, I think that's kind of wrong. You shouldn't really say that. And if they like say, well, I can say this if I want because I'm black and
I'm older than you.
yeah, I'm older than you and I understand the world, so I can say what I want. You kind of just gotta be like, I mean, I'm just really correcting you because that's not right to say.
Yeah, I feel like that can be really hard to deal with, especially because like if you're seen as like disrespectful in your family, that's like, oh, the worst thing ever. Like, so I feel like for the adults, like, because I've had that happen to me before. Like, I've tried to correct my grandma and some of my extended relatives, and then like my mom or my auntie would just stand there and like not say anything, stuff like that. So I feel like for the adults, like we should say that they should when they see like an unfair power balance, like if that's a kid and an adult or like a unfair system as in a person, like they should interject.
I also feel like when I need learners to start thinking kids are not smart and as smart as they, like kids are smart and people need to start not people, grown-ups need to start.
I don't know how
recognizing that.
toddlers consider when they just put things in their mouth.
Well, we're talking about
Yeah,
like us and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Like 8 through 12.
Yeah.
8
Okay,
through,
yeah.
8 through and more, 8 through up. And I feel like grown-ups are just like, well, they don't really know nothing, so I guess they're just talking what they heard, but really we're talking about what we've seen, what we heard,
But we live.
yes. So I just feel like they need to stop correcting kids, and we kids need to start correcting.
Especially post-puberty, your brain has already, well, really you have almost finished developing. So your brain is probably sharper than theirs at that point.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're old and decrepit.
Also, they should probably, the teacher people, they should probably compare or ask the adults to compare their feeling process to ours. So, or like just ask them something like, do you think it's easier to heal from ages 13 to 17?
I think that's a great question.
I feel like at an age like toddlers, of course, they don't really know what's going
Yeah.
on, so they
Yeah.
can't really heal. But I feel like if they're like maybe around 5 or 6, I feel like they can hear stuff, and if they keep hearing it as they grow up, they will learn to heal.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they will be like, well, how do I deal with this? Like, I don't think this stuff, I don't know if this stuff is good, but I also don't think this stuff is nice.
Yeah, I remember. Like, I feel like people don't think that like experiencing racism from a young age is harmful because you don't remember it. But I remember like when I was in preschool, I was like 4 or 5. We were all, but like you know how in like school like you draw faces on paper plates and stuff like that, and then you put it up. Basically, I was doing that. And I was coloring, like, we were drawing ourselves, so I was coloring my face brown. And then some boy came, and he was like, you're not brown, you're black. And he put black paint on my paper plate. And, yeah. And then my mom, she was so mad. Whenever I, like, talked about this, stuff like that, she was like, yeah, and I wanted to beat that little boy up. But,
And I mean, I guess when you're in preschool, maybe the reason you did that is because you heard that, like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
he was like, oh yeah, she's black. And he was like, oh, well, that means everything about you is black.
Yeah.
Therefore, your skin is black, even though it is brown.
Yeah, but I feel like you were saying, kids, toddlers, like 5-year-olds, they don't understand the complexities of race or anything like that. So I know that he heard that from somebody else. Because like if you're a kid and you see a brown person, you think they're brown. You don't think they're black if you've never heard somebody say that's a black person before.
Yeah, it's something similar happened with me and my sister because when we were like really young, around like 3 to 4, not 3, but probably 4 or 5. We was in preschool now and stuff, and we was watching a movie because it was a Friday and we didn't have like fun day at preschool. So we turned the light off. It was this one girl or one boy. I'm not sure what the gender was, but so we turned the lights off, and then they all said that, oh no, now we can't see Corey and Jordan anymore because the lights off. And I don't really remember it, but my sister did, and I just felt like that was not okay, and it was so wrong.
This has nothing to do with any of that, but one of my fondest memories from preschool is being upset that another class got pizza and we didn't. Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely
Truly showcased our class struggle.
Yeah, I feel like that shows like trauma can be developed at a very young age. So you have to be especially mindful of what you say around the children. Because even if you don't say anything like racist or anything like that, kids, they will repeat anything they hear like that. So you have to I feel like for the adults, you have to make sure that your kids are in like a safe environment, and you can't tolerate racism, especially in your family and people that you know. Because like, what if you give your kid to somebody to babysit them, and then that person is racist, and then your kid goes around repeating that, then you look like a bad parent, and your child looks like a bad kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my aunt has been babysitting, and the kids' parents curse a lot, like in front of them. Like her parents argue a lot, and so sometimes she'll just like refer to my aunt as, you know, the B word, and just call my cousins a-holes. Yeah, stuff like that. So, you know, that, by the way, he's like 4, so it was definitely, I would imagine it was an interesting night.
Yeah.
Kind of raising a child of color, how do you affirm, reassure, or help them with the healing process?
I think that's really good.
And I was gonna kind of try to come up with another one, but I couldn't think of no words.
So we have three or four now.
Yeah, do you think it's easier to heal from ages 13 to 17 as we protest against racism? And then if you're raising a child of color, how do you affirm? Is there a story?
Reassure or help them through their healing process.
Yeah,
How do you
we're good.
affirm, reassure?
I think that's it.
So the last question is, what do you want to do what do you want to do moving forward to end racism? So what I would do is just acknowledge the problems, find a solution, and put it all together.
What I want to do and what I'll commit to is I'll continue to listen and learn from people around me, people who aren't like me, and continue to devote my time and energy to learning, not just learning, but also then how to act, what I can do to dismantle racism, and whether that's at the policy level or sometimes at the individual level, just by having conversations with people.
I've been asked to do training for pastors who are now taking cross-cultural appointments and do coaching for them. I'm on committees that we deal with systemic racism, like so head on. So blessed to be able to say, look, I'm going to challenge this system, but I'm not just going to run away. Like, okay, let's get in here, let's roll up our sleeves, and let's get after it. And I think that is my calling to do that. As people come behind me, I'm like, I gotta leave a legacy. Now you can do it, and I got you. I'm gonna lift you up.
You're raising a child of color. How do you reassure them or help them in their healing process?
Can you repeat it one more time?
If you're raising a child of color, how do you reassure them or help them in their healing process?
The questions that y'all came up with are like brain exploding. Like asking that question as a young person, again, indicates why we need to be listening to kids. Now, I can't speak on raising a kid of color, but as a teacher and working with kids of color and just in the work that I do now, I don't know that I can help somebody heal unless they know what is wrong, right? So kind of like what Drake said in terms of, you know, understanding that something's going on. And so I see my role as just being open and not letting anything be taboo and not let anything be unspeakable, right? Like if a child is trying to say something, and I've been with students they're trying to say something happened and it was racially motivated, and they didn't know if they could say that to me. And I would just use the raw words, right? Like, and demonstrate to them, like, say what happened, you know? And they would be tiptoeing around words, and I would say white. So the teacher was white, And there was just this sense of like, oh, I can say that, right? And if I can do anything to help young Black and brown kids, it's just to allow them to be themselves and just role model that, you know, I don't know about role model, but just be open and be there for them in whatever way they need.
I've been sitting here thinking like lots of things, but I think how do you help a child heal? I think you start to, one, affirm wherever their pain is. Oftentimes, we do not affirm the pain of a child. We want them to quickly get up and try it again. What would happen if we actually just sat with them and let them feel it, acknowledge that it's there, give them the tools and the resources to actually say, here's how you treat it, here's how you recover from it, and then move forward. I think what we often do is give them skills and tools that probably developmentally they really don't know how to handle. Because we believe that they are Black boys, so you have to know how to do this. And it was like, what if I just focused on their age, their development, build them up, who they are, affirm when they're hurt, instead of being socialized like, oh, if they're hurt, you're less than a man, or if you're hurt, you need to just suck it up because you need to get back to work and keep it moving. And I have probably healed my own self because I have forced people around me to say, if I'm hurting, you're not going to tell me to stop hurting. That, I think, is how we can heal and heal children.
I went to a private high school, private junior high in St. Louis. My junior high principal said, we can't do nothing with him, we need to get him into a better school. Because I was getting straight A's and not going to class, didn't have to go to class. I could. My sister would tell me, hey, you got a test next week. All right, I'll go get an A, and then I'm teaching the math class. Now, I'm not proud of that, because my mom was like, good Christian woman, she's like, this is some BS, why ain't my son in class? But so I ended up at a private school, 4 Black kids in the class, learning at an early age how to compete. I talk about that a lot, so it's education that's pushed me. You mentioned, we talked a little bit about liberation theology. What I know about liberation theology, which started with the Latin community, is that how do you see yourself in God? That's important if you're really teaching that. How do we get a neighborhood, a community that is marginalized to see God in them? And that's the Reader's Digest version of that. Because we're born in trauma. I mean, that's facts. We're born in trauma, and it is chronic. But what I've learned to do, because my dad didn't have a strong father. My mom was the breadwinner, so I had to figure it out. I had to figure life out the hard way. I had to compete and show, okay, how do I see myself as one of 90 kids, 2 of us are Black. I competed. How did I see myself? I feel that if we're going to be there for the next generation, we have to work on our own healing as adults. Kevin Caldwell said, he's another pastor, great pastor, said that as a culture, after 400 years of what we dealt with, we all need therapy. Like all of us, because we've inherited this trauma. So I see a therapist. I mean, I see it, I go face my issues, I go see that. I'm a life coach, I deal with, if I'm gonna help the next generation, I gotta work on me. And I gotta be honest and transparent and be willing to be real. And so, my paying it forward, I'm trying to know, I've advised my undergrad chapter for the past 20 years. I got like 90 of them graduated. got kids come down from west side of Chicago or from East St. Louis, and now you're competing at this big giant school. My job is to push them forward. That how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself? I mean, how do you see? We have some that were still banging. Like, you're in a fraternity now in college. Why we gotta come to the frat house and you fighting? How do you see yourself? I had one kid that called me 2 o'clock in the morning one day after getting in a fight. And I'm like, do you still see yourself as this kid that, you know, south side of Chicago, you're about to graduate with a 4-year degree from the University of Illinois, and how do you see yourself? Why didn't you get into grad school? How do you see yourself? He cried on my shoulder, took a year off, got his MBA from the University of Illinois. He is now a manager. How do you see yourself? So how do I see myself? So my job, after fighting through all the life I've fought through, is to pay it forward, because the issue's still chronic. We still got to remind ourselves. There are times when I go see my therapist, like, wait a minute, didn't we talk about that a while back? Yeah, because it's chronic, right? But how do when I talk to kids in the whatever, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as, I can't get beyond Champaign-Urbana because, you know, I'm not good enough? What did you say, liberation theology? Well, how does God see you? That's the flip side of that question. God sees a diamond in the rough, like a little Christian. You know? And so it's not going to go away, but what I do like that the younger folks have said is we don't see the world like you see it because we're not afraid to have the conversations, right? However, I do know you're going to get in spaces where you do have to have these conversations. Come to the University of Illinois, predominantly white institution, whether you pledge a fraternity or not, you know. I'll say this last thing, I hope I haven't gone too long. I worked at Illinois State University when I got in the Marine Corps, and there was a professor who taught a literature, English lit class. He was tenured. He said he purposed that any black student would not pass his class because he had tenure. I sat in his class, I audited his class, and got on his last nerve, because you can't grade me, I'm gonna say what I gotta say. And because an older man said, I was 30-some odd years going back to school, because an older man sat in the class and said, I see myself this way. That was an example for, again, how do you have a right to compete at this school and to challenge what that man said. So that's, to me, the way I don't think it's chronic. What the systemic racism is chronic, it's never going away, but how do we attack it better? And how do we, I've heard I love what I'm hearing from the young folks, but we see it in a little bit different way. But still, you dealt this hand that we got to figure out how to keep playing it so that, you know, we move your needle. Like, I'm so proud of the guy who's got his MBA and figured out, you know, I ain't got to keep fighting my way out of this. Because I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I got into school. But I see myself, he had to see himself in that manner. Does that make sense? Lights to you.
This is powerful. I don't want to back to the original question, right? I don't have a child of color that I'm going to raise. However, I do want to echo a couple things that I think are powerful, and some of the things that I've learned during my own journey in issues of racial healing, because racism, whether it's individual, whether it's structural, or whether it's systemic, does harm all of us, right? And that harm is invisible, and it is automatic. You know, we are born as blank slates, but our first breath in this society breathes in the air of systemic racism. And so I think for me, the first thing is to be honest with a child about that, not to scare them, not to you know, re-traumatize them, but to say, look, here's the wound, here's the disease that we're fighting. And I think, Chandra, I think you said, give them tools. Give them tools to fight that disease, and you start at an early age. And And the other thing that I've been reflecting on here is just really powerful. Many of us, right, all the adults in this room have been doing some level of facilitation in this work, right, for the last several months. The questions that you guys came up with, the group of 9 or 10 kids that you worked with, came up with, that you're representing here today, are more powerful than any question that I asked any of the people that were in any of my projects, and that's a little embarrassing. But at the same time, it speaks loudly in terms of how powerful youth voice is and how we should listen to it. Because it's just like, literally sets me back on my heels. And it's like, makes me think. So, thank you.